My name is Albert Harrison, a 29-year-old office worker. If there's anything that sets me apart from others, it's that I'm a wheelchair user. I began this wheelchair life due to an injury I sustained while mountain climbing back in my student days. Many people tell me that there is no way I want to climb the mountain again after the injury, but I still do. Currently, I'm totally into free climbing. I work in a factory of a major metal processing company. I have no complaints about my working conditions, and I have a good relationship with everyone. I often think how blessed I am to be surrounded by such people. I thought I would always be in this factory, but a sudden transfer order came to me in spring. I was ordered to work at the head office. This surprised everyone in the factory, including the factory manager. It seems that the upper management wants to highlight the company's image of actively hiring people with disabilities. Though it's quite annoying to be shuffled around for such reason, I'm an office worker. It's hard to go against the directives from above. So I left the factory I was familiar with and transferred to the head office where I didn't know anyone. I was transferred to the General Affairs Department of the head office. As I thought, it was a position allocated for disabled hiring. You could tell from the arrangement of the desks on my floor that they made various adjustments to accommodate me. The CEO directly told me, "We'll improve anything that makes you uncomfortable," and I became determined to contribute for the wheelchair users who will be employed in the future. "Nice to meet you, I'm Cindy Miller. I'll be your mentor until you get used to the head office," said a cute woman who looked like a small animal, extending her right hand. "I can do most things on my own, but when I need help, I hope you can assist me." When I said this, she replied, "Yes," with an energetic response. I felt slightly less tense, thinking that I might get along well with her. "Oh, you must be Albert. It's a real hassle that we've been handed to take care of you. It's quite troublesome for us too," said Ethan, the section manager, with a voice that suggested he attended many drinking parties. He seemed to be in his late 40s, with a prominent beer belly and peau skin. My first impression was that he seemed unhealthy. I was so taken aback by his appearance that I didn't even realize the extremely rude comment he had made. "I'm Albert, nice to meet you." Perhaps my response, which seemed to ignore Ethan's sarcastic comment, might have made things worse. He probably saw me as someone who's difficult to handle since I didn't react to his sarcastic comment. Ethan returned to his desk with a sour expression. "Don't mind him, he always talks like that," Cindy said, frowning. It seemed that Ethan was not well liked by his subordinates. And so, my assignment at the head office began. I don't consider this a big disruption, just a minor bump in the road. The work was similar to the administrative tasks I had at the factory, and the manuals were well organized, so there were no issues. The only minor issue was Cindy. I think she probably didn't have much experience dealing with wheelchair users before. She tended to treat me as someone special. Being overly considerate made me feel somewhat uncomfortable. "Oh, I'll get that for you," Cindy said as I was about to go and retrieve some document files. "It's all right, I can get it myself. If I can't do something, I'll ask for help," I told her. Upon hearing my words, she looked surprised. Seeing her expression, I realized that someone else must have said the same thing to her before. The next moment, her cheeks turned red, as if she was ashamed of her actions. "How about we go out for dinner tonight?" When I said this, Cindy responded with a "Pardon, I'm asking you out. Is that okay?" She looked surprised. "Sure," she said. After hearing her reply, I gripped the hand rims and pushed the drive wheels. My wheelchair moves smoothly as if it's an extension of me. At the filing cabinet, I turned back to the desk and saw Cindy looking worried. I gave her a small wave, "I'm fine" gesture. After work that day, I asked Cindy out for dinner. "You know, I commute by car. Would you walk with me to the parking lot?" We agreed to meet at the company's main entrance. She was waiting for me, looking a bit anxious. In my wheelchair, I naturally look up to her from a lower viewpoint. She had a different shade of lipstick on than she usually wore at work. She must have retouched her makeup. I was a little fascinated by the slight change in her profile. Not that I'm easily smitten. She's just that captivating. "So, you drive?" "I've got a driver's license, but never drive," Cindy said, blushing. She wears her emotions on her face. She's a candid person. I can't help but find that appealing. "Oh, you two are going out. Can you find a place where Albert can enter? You'd be up all night just looking for a place." Ethan, the department manager who happened to pass by, laughed out loud and made a sarcastic remark. "He's always like this. Not just to me. He often says rude and discriminatory things to his subordinates. He passes his own failures onto his subordinates and acts innocent." Ethan, who is the CEO's son-in-law, can be impolite and incompetent, but no one can say anything to him, as my coworkers told me. "Sorry to worry you, Ethan, but I've researched places that are accessible for a date," I replied with a smile. Then, Ethan clicked his tongue in frustration. He must be annoyed that no matter what snide remarks he makes, it doesn't affect me. He quickly left with a displeased look on his face. I wonder if all he can do is make nasty comments. Cindy stuck her tongue out in disgust at Ethan's retreating figure. I was more intrigued by her cute gesture than Ethan's snide remark, and it made me smile a little. During our date, Cindy was constantly surprised, which I was satisfied with as the one who invited her. When I was getting in the car, she tried to help me fold my wheelchair. I quickly folded it before she could and placed it in the back seat, and she looked at me in surprise. The same happened when we arrived at the restaurant. She was surprised seeing me set up the wheelchair and transfer myself. "You really can do anything." "Most things, yeah, but there are things I can't do." "And what do you do then?" We were having this conversation on the ramp leading to the entrance of the restaurant we had reserved. "Well, I ask for help. It's no shame in admitting what I can't do." Saying that, I opened the restaurant door and escorted her in. Cindy blushed slightly and said, "Thank you," with a smile. Nowadays, there are more places accessible for wheelchairs. When I make reservations at a place I'm visiting for the first time, I let them know I'm a wheelchair user. This way, the restaurant isn't caught off guard, and my companion doesn't have to feel awkward. The reserved table was a prime seat with a view of the beautifully lit-up English garden, which was the feature of this restaurant. "Sorry for suddenly asking you out, but I thought it would be good if you, as my mentor, knew more about me." I apologized to her after we had placed our orders. And then it hit me. "Sorry, do you have a boyfriend or something? I hope it will not cause any misunderstandings." If she had a man in her life, there was the risk of causing significant inconvenience. Seeing my sudden rush, Cindy burst out laughing. She laughed until she was in tears. "Unfortunately, there's no such man," she said, wiping her tears. She explained that she found it hilarious that I was bringing this up now. Somehow, thanks to the laughter, I felt closer to her. And then she told me a secret she had never shared with anyone before. I too was once severely injured and was told that I might never walk again. I was taken aback by her unexpected confession. Cindy told me that she used to do paraequestrian. When she was in high school, she had a severe fall during training. At that time, the doctors had made such a prognosis. When I remember the despair I felt at that time, I still wake up at night, even now. That was something I had also experienced. What had been normal for me until then was no longer normal. I was overwhelmed with anxiety about how my life would change from then on. There were times when I stared at my own immobile legs and shed tears. No one's words of encouragement resonated with me. I had a time like that as well. Fortunately, Cindy said she was able to walk again after undergoing repeated rehabilitation and surgeries. Now, there are times when she feels like the accident was all a dream. She probably cared about me more than necessary because she saw in me the future she had once despaired about. I realized again that she was a truly kind and honest person. I know that I'm completely different from you, Albert, but I couldn't help but see myself in you. Cindy apologized, hanging her head. I shook my head, telling her that there was no need for her to apologize. Do you no longer ride horses? At my question, she nodded with a somewhat sad face. She said she had become too scared to do it. I see. So, about the next day off, I asked her out on a date for the next holiday. The long-awaited day off. I picked up Cindy in my car. I kept the destination a secret. I had shamelessly asked her to prepare a picnic lunch. Cindy smiled a little incredulously, saying, "You really have some nerve, Albert." So, I think she must have prepared it. The car ride took us to a cliff located deep in the mountains. Where is this? Cindy looked up at the towering cliff in wonder. Just watch as I climbed that. At my words, Cindy's eyes widened. At the bottom of the cliff were my old mountaineering buddies, who had been with me even before I became a wheelchair user. They were helping me because I just couldn't give up on the mountains. "Are you sure this is safe, even though you said you can do anything?" "No, I'm fine. Just watch." As she looked up anxiously, I climbed the rock swiftly with the support of my friends. When I reached the top and waved to her, she waved back with a face that looked like she might start crying any minute. To descend, I used a rope and a descender to get back to the ground in a jiffy. See, it wasn't that bad, right? So why don't you give it another try? You want to ride, don't you? You actually do want to ride the horse. At my words, Cindy nodded, tears streaming down her face. She must have been holding it in for a long time. I believe it's not a lie that she felt fear towards horse riding. But above that, I think Cindy had distanced herself from horse riding because she was worried about causing concern to those who cared about her. She didn't want to worry her loved ones anymore. I couldn't give up climbing or mountain climbing. I think she must feel the same. "Albert, I feel like I can confidently tell my parents that I'm okay, that they don't have to worry." Cindy's face was a mess from crying, and her mascara was a little smudged, but she was still attractive and beautiful. About 2 weeks after I was transferred to the head office, a welcome party was arranged for me in the General Affairs Department. The location of the welcome party was a high-end sushi restaurant, a place I wouldn't normally set foot in. Sushi is my favorite food. I was looking forward to the welcome party. However, an incident occurred on the day. I arrived at the high-end sushi restaurant where the welcome party was held when everyone else had almost gathered. When I entered the restaurant, I could see a small set of stairs. I couldn't get to the stairs past the counter because the width of the wheelchair was in the way. The sushi chef also looked surprised when he saw me. Probably, he wasn't informed that a wheelchair user was coming. It's a high-end sushi restaurant. The service is supposed to be great. Normally, I wouldn't have had to struggle in a place like this. While I was wondering what to do, my boss, Ethan, came down the stairs with a grin on his face. "Oh, can you get through there? That's too bad. You can't pass because you're on that thing." Cindy and a few of my colleagues behind me held their breath. Ethan seemed a bit drunk. He was laughing while loosening his sloppy tie. "All right, since it's just that you can't pass, you should just crawl here." Ethan was laughing hysterically at his own words. The atmosphere in the place froze instantly. All I had on my mind was sushi, and honestly, I didn't even want to deal with Ethan. "Come on, crawl over here. You said you wanted to eat sushi, didn't you?" The one who snapped at this provocation was Cindy. She slipped past me and walked briskly towards Ethan. Then she grabbed Ethan's tie. "Have some shame, you pig," Cindy growled in a low voice. Everyone there must have thought for a moment that they were hearing things. Ethan seemed a bit taken aback by Cindy's forcefulness. "This is bad. It could turn into a brawl in the restaurant at this rate." I smiled at the chef. Then, I brightly asked the chef, "Chef, I really want to try the sushi you make, but it seems I can't get in. Can you please prepare a special sushi roll for me to take out?" The chef rolled up his sleeves and said, "All right, leave it to me." Cindy shook off Ethan's tie as if she were throwing away something filthy and said, "I want one too, please." Cindy and I left the welcome party venue with the special sushi the chef made for us. From what I heard from my colleagues, the welcome party without me, the guest of honor, felt flat and was as quiet as a wake. Everyone seemed to be glaring at Ethan while stuffing their faces with delicious sushi. I felt a bit apologetic, but everyone said they enjoyed the sushi with a smile, so that put my mind at ease just a little. Cindy and I left the sushi restaurant and ate our sushi in a nearby park. Cindy, angry as she was, popped a piece of sushi into her mouth with a swift, impulsive gesture. "You know, it might taste better if you take your time." "Shut up, I'm angry," she retorted. Watching her angrily stuff her face with sushi, I enjoyed my own gourmet sushi. It was probably a treat from the restaurant's head chef. There were more toppings than the usual premium sushi. The next day, when I arrived at the office, it seemed that the events of the previous night had caused quite a stir. Apparently, my coworkers were livid at manager Ethan's behavior and were planning to lodge a complaint with HR and the higher-ups. In surprise, one of my colleagues explained, "You were just the last straw." Many had been unhappy with manager Ethan's attitude for some time, but his position as the boss's son-in-law had forced them to put up with it. However, after seeing his treatment of me the previous night, everyone had decided they could no longer tolerate it as human beings. For my part, I had had my sushi and felt like maybe it was time to let it go, but Cindy said, "It's for the person who gets hired next, too," which made me feel a bit ashamed of my irresponsibility. I'd been somewhat self-centered, thinking as long as I was happy, everything was okay. I hadn't really thought about the people who would come after me. HR started conducting interviews, and soon it was my turn. The meeting room prepared for the investigation also had the CEO present. This was clearly seen as a serious issue. "I'm sorry for the actions of my son-in-law. It's due to my lack of oversight. Please forgive us." The CEO started by apologizing, which made me feel somewhat overwhelmed. Cindy, who was interviewed before me, apparently explained everything about the incident the previous night in detail, and also talked about all that had led up to it. In addition to that, it seems they managed to gather information about manager Ethan's misconduct from other colleagues as well. "Albert, we're thinking of demoting Ethan and asking him to leave the headquarters. Will that lighten your mood a bit?" the CEO asked. I took a moment to think about it. It didn't seem like that would really solve anything. When the CEO asked me again, "What do you think of manager Ethan?" I decided to be honest about my feelings. "I feel sorry for him. He probably just lacks imagination. I can't say much since we just met, but I don't dislike Manager Ethan. The CEO was taken aback by my response. But before that, I shared all the harassing behavior from Manager Ethan that I had heard from my colleagues with the CEO and the HR manager. Still, everyone deserves a chance to start over. That includes Manager Ethan, I added. I assured the CEO that I believed Ethan would change his attitude after this whole mess. Though I am single, Ethan has a wife and children. He has a lot to protect. Please give him a chance. With that, I bowed to the CEO. I'm touched by your generosity. Thank you for forgiving my son-in-law, for protecting my daughter's family. As a father-in-law, I am grateful, the CEO said. His words deeply moved me. A man who can genuinely apologize for others. If this man is at the top of the company, it's in good hands. This is a great company, I thought again. I heard you forgave Manager Ethan, Cindy said at the rooftop break area. I was never really mad in the first place. Doesn't forgiving him sound a bit arrogant? Since we ate sushi together in the park, Cindy's demeanor had become much more relaxed. You know I'm thick-skinned, right? That's my charm. It's all water under the bridge now, I said with a cheer, meeting Cindy's sidelong glance. She was angry on my behalf. Seriously, so thick-skinned it's shocking. You're a big-hearted man, and that makes you a great person. She joked around to match my mood, no longer angry, and gave me a smile. Why don't we go horse riding next time? I want you to see me in all my glory. Of course, I'll accompany you. At my response, Cindy chuckled, no need for formality. Seeing her smile made me genuinely feel that the transfer to the headquarters wasn't so bad. Later, when my boss Ethan insisted on apologizing by bowing deeply, I was completely taken aback. He tried to hug me while sniffling, so I ran away as fast as I could. My colleagues couldn't stop laughing at the spectacle. It felt like a sudden gust of fresh air had swept through the office. Cindy was laughing so hard, she was tearing up. Hey, stop laughing and help me out. That's not something I'd expect from the self-sufficient Albert. Her response left me at a loss. Ethan, still calling out, Albert, wouldn't give up trying to hug me. If you'll make me your girlfriend, I'll help you. In a voice only I could hear, Cindy softly whispered this. She had a bold side that belied her appearance. That was part of her charm. Let's not just date, let's get married. At my response, Cindy, saying okay, stood up from her chair and placed herself in front of Ethan. Could you please not smear your snot on my future husband? Her comment made the whole department erupt in laughter. Well wishes came flying from all around. Our future couldn't be brighter. Is it too soon to be looking forward to our wedding? What do you think? Subscribe the channel and it will give me the motivation to produce more. See you in the next video.